With so many different strings on the market between natural gut, polyester, some promoting power, spin, comfort, some promoting all at once. But do any of these strings really make that big of a difference in your tennis performance?
Nope. Just kidding.
Of course, they make a huge difference. In fact, in the last 20 or so years, there's been nothing that's impacted the game of tennis more than the strings. A lot of innovation in strings. So if you're looking to have more power, more spin, more comfort, that's what the strings are offering.
That's right, guys. And a lot of high-level players even don't know this information. So today we're going to walk you through the different types of strings and help you make an informed decision on the string that's right for what you got going on.
First up, natural gut. A lot of different brands make it, but natural gut is actual gut. It's the serosa layer of either a sheep or a cow. It's
bad news to be a sheep when the tennis market's involved.
I guess so. But this intestinal layer is processed and actually used for strings.
Wait, it's the literal sheep guts.
It's actual guts.
All right, guys.
So the
one strike in the con column. Carry on.
So, well, talk to us a little bit about the pros. What are the pros of this particular
Yeah,
string?
I mean, so I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I had to do a little bit of research here to understand the different nuances here, but I knew about natural gut because it's what all the pros play with, right? I mean, it is the Cadillac of string. It's the best for feel. It's the string you want to be playing with. So why wouldn't we just everybody play with this?
This string is going to have you more connected with the ball as far as feel than any other string. But part of the cons is that in order to get that feel and the playability, you're going to pay for it. It's
got to light some money on fire.
It's the most expensive string that's in the market, and it's usually used as a hybrid. We'll talk about that later from professional players, but you're going to be hard-pressed to find a professional player that doesn't have natural gut in their racket, or at least as a hybrid. But who should be playing with it?
High-level players, right?
High-level players,
and people that have millions of dollars to spend on their tennis gear.
Yeah, the truth is if you're playing probably below 5.0, 4, maybe 4 or 5
level,
level,
playing some high-level ball for this expense to make any sense.
Really notice the difference. This isn't going to, the juice is not going to be worth the squeeze.
Yep.
Natural gut is left for those players with just really good feel, that really feel connected to the ball because of their experience in the game.
Cool. On to the next. All right, guys, so next up, we've got our good friend here, synthetic gut. And synthetic gut is basically like natural gut light. Like it's a poor man's natural gut.
Is that a beer reference?
We'll call it natty gut light.
Yeah.
All right, so kind of similar in terms of like playability, durability. The big win here is it's more affordable, and we can really use this for a wide range of players, right? If you're playing at that top tier, you're gonna really feel the difference between cow gut and synthetic gut.
You're paying for what you get, right?
Exactly. But this is made from what? Nylon and other synthetic gut materials. There's no sheep were harmed in the making of this string. So that's a pro. We'll put that on the pros list. But yeah, I mean, honestly, if for most players who aren't going to spend the extra money to go play with natural gut, this is kind of the next best thing, right?
Yeah, for players just starting out, the intermediate player, you might play just with synthetic gut alone. And there's a lot of different types. This particular Wilson products has power. You can find it with more spin, you can find more comfort, you can find a blend. Every kind of attribute that you can throw, synthetic gut is made to help endorse those particular attributes. Now, the big pro here is obviously what Scott talked on. It's the affordability of it, but just like anything else, if you're paying less, you're getting a little bit less, so you're not quite getting the feel, the playability.
But the change in price as compared to the change in actual feel for rec players, this is the move.
Yeah,
right?
So really the only con is that you're just not quite getting what you would get in gut, but most of you aren't even gonna notice, so it's totally fine.
Yep, on to the next one.
All right, next up are the poly, short for polyester, and this is the biggest game changer in the game. The introduction of poly has changed the landscape of tennis because of its access to spin and power. Now, the material of polyester is just what it sounds like. It's a single solid core of polyester, all right? And there's some pros, cons. You wanna talk to a little bit about the characteristics of these polyesters first?
Yeah, for sure. So we talked a lot about natural gut and how pretty much every pro player on tour plays with natural gut, which is true, but they're lacing it with poly, right? So you've got half poly, you've got half, and what goes where? Natural gut's gonna go in the...
You can change them. They're interchangeable. I mean, most of the time we're gonna see synthetic gut in the crosses with the polys and the mains, but players, some prefer to switch that up.
Cool. And guys, this is what you're gonna see Nate and I playing with, because we're just gonna break strings too often if we don't lace poly into the crosses, right? So for me, like for us at the high level, you know, we want to be playing with just synthetic gut. It feels really good, but it's going to break if you don't layer it in with something like this. And so on the Pro Tour, same situation. We need the durability, and the access to spin is bonkers. So this is good for players with long, fast swings that like to hit the ball really hard. You need that spin to keep that ball down in the court. So poly is going to be the move, but typically, again, crossed in with some natural gut at the pro level.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be very few pros you see playing that don't have, as Scott mentioned, this combination, but poly's huge game changer. The ball has a tendency to fall off a cliff, and that access, I mean, the RPMs that we see now in the game didn't exist before polyester. It's really given some serious access to spin, but there are cons. Now, the cons, although the string is much more durable than, say, a synthetic gut, it's going to be much, much more difficult to break the polyester. They're also much harsher on the arm, so we've got to be aware of that. For players that are just starting out, we don't advise you using poly because the technique isn't there yet, and therefore you're going to have arm issues.
Right, and if your technique isn't perfect, you will have arm issues. That is a warning for
poly,
sure.
A lot of times when players are having tennis elbow issues or any other form of tendonitis, a lot of times we investigate the strings, and polys can definitely be the culprit. Now we're going to get into they make softer polys, and we're going to get into gauge. That's the thickness of the string. That will contribute to you know, how harsh the poly is. But just be aware, the most innovative stringer in the market, but also the harshest when it comes to arm injuries.
Yep, so more higher level, again, if you're more recreational and you want to avoid these arm issues, your technique isn't perfect, we're talking synthetic gut. If you're a rich millionaire tennis coach, we're probably talking about a mix of poly and natural gut. And then sometimes, you know, somebody who just loves spin and has a long swing and perfect technique, maybe just poly by itself.
Yep, and I would say the entry level here is probably about 4.0, right?
Okay, cool.
4.0 is when we're going to start really investigating the polys, maybe at 3.5. But
on to the next one.
Let's get it.
Next up is multi-filaments, and think of multi-filaments as kind of the bridge string between polys and natural gut. You're going to get a bit more durability than natural gut, and it's also going to be softer, but it's not as durable as your polys. And it's called multi-filaments because we've got different versions of nylon kind of interwoven together, thus the softness.
Yeah, so this string is really suitable for the player that's trying to split the difference between comfort and performance. There's going to be some performance here. There's decent power and control, not as optimal as some of the other strings, the spin that you're going to get from a polyester, or the softness and feel of a natural gut. Like Scott said, it splits the difference. Now the cons here, it really just kind of comes to the price point, right? So it's going to be more expensive than your synthetic guts, and at the same time, it's not going to be as durable as a polyester. So if you like saving money by not having a string as frequent with a poly, if you use a multi-filament, they're probably going to break more.
But your arm's not going to hurt as bad if your technique isn't perfect.
Yeah, everyone's like, wait a second.
Yeah, head's exploding. This is hard, guys, but this is why there's different options out there. There really is like a specific string option for every scenario.
Yep. And so lastly, what we're going to talk about briefly, because we talked about it earlier, were hybrids. Hybrid just simply, you hear that term loosely used. It's really just taking different strings and putting them in the same racket. The most popular is going to be these polys with a syn gut or a multi-filament. That's what we see most frequently in the hybrids. And for players that are looking for something a little bit different, especially 4.0 and above, the more advanced you are, the more you're going to appreciate it. That is what we advise. But we've got to talk about gauges now.
Oh gosh, there's a lot going on.
Come
here.
in different thicknesses. That's the gauge we're referencing.
Great. If you weren't already confused, buckle up.
So the gauge, simply the thickness of the string. Now this is going to be counterintuitive. The lower
you would think the higher the number, the thicker the string, right?
But
nope,
someone
it's the
wants
opposite.
to mess with it. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
15, it's a scale from 15 to 18. 15 is actually the thickest string.
And also the lowest gauge, right? So the lowest gauge, thickest string, 15. Carry on.
And the benefit of the thickest string is that it's going to be more durable. You're not going to break them as frequently, and you're going to have more control. But if you're trying to save money where you're not stringing all the time, you're going to look for that lower number, typically 16. 15 is relatively harsh. 16 gauge is what most players are going to find themselves playing with.
For sure. And then as we get higher, what do you think happens when the string is thinner? It's going to break more often, but also we get some benefits of spin, right?
Yeah, a little more power and spin.
A little more power, a little more
thinner the string, but be ready to break them.
That's right. All right, guys, we've covered kind of everything there, right? We've got the gauges of the rackets. Remember, the lower the gauge, and it runs from 15 to 18, the lower the gauge, the thicker the string. We ran through the 4 different types of string and then what the hybrid actually means. Hopefully now you can make a pick for the string that's right for your game.
So now that you've picked out the right string for you, you've got to figure out how you're going to string it, the tension. All right, the tighter you string a racket, the more control that you're going to have, but it's also going to be easier to break because the strings are tighter, right? It's going to have more friction with the ball. Now, as you drop tension, you start getting lower. You
Trampolini.
You get into like, say, the 50s, right? The softer the strings are going to be, the more flexible. So you're going to have a lot more access to power and spin.
I remember this kind of confusing me when I was a junior because I was like, no, like you create that really tight surface, the ball's going to spring off of there, but it's more like the trampoline effect where the looser you string the racket, actually the more power you get.
Yeah, and so with the Sing Guts, you can string those relatively tight. You can get into the 60s, like low 60s. You typically see string the tension, it going from 50 to 60. Now, the polys are a little bit different. Polys, you're gonna string looser, right?
Yep.
You don't wanna get those strung super tight. You wanna keep them looser. And they're also gonna lose tension a little bit quicker, but that's kind of what you want with the poly. You want that string really snapping.
Yep.
Right?
Cool. Guys, I hope this helps. It's a ton of information. If you're looking to buy some string, you know where to go. Head on over to shop.PlayYourCourt.com. Yes, we do sell tennis gear now, so check that stuff out. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully now you have the information to pick the string that's right for you and string it up the way that's perfect for your game. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care, guys.